Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a made-up word.
Hey, it's a Nerkie. People say we're nerking around.
I don't know if that's appropriate, Christopher. Talking about
You know what?
nerking around.
People are getting. You know what?
You know what? It's okay for us to say that word because we are nerds. So
Yeah. And
So
if I
here-
want to spread my nerk, people are gonna take my nerk.
Just on here nerking off. Okay. So
Oh well, with that, now that you've listened to Kyle Nerkoff, welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we are two 30 to 40-something-year-olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
and I'm Kyle, and you might know us online from Twitch and other things as Guyver and K-Sig. And we're still on WandaVision for these, which is great.
Which episode 4 of
Mhm.
WandaVision, so which means we only have 4 episodes left after this one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
That's-
have to think of our
that's-
next Nerkie.
That's math. That's
That
nerd
is
math.
Math,
Mhm. Quick maths.
science.
Math and science and such.
She blinded me. Well, if you look up at the screen, look at that piece of hot sauce over there. That hot piece of chicken. I believe he's very sriracha-y. It's Mr. Justin. He's back.
Welcome
Hello.
back.
We didn't ask for him to come back, but he showed up again. So hey, might
I'm
as well do a Nerkie.
just on your Zoom anytime you log in. So
Hey, I appreciate that.
I am the Agnes to your Wanda. So
Oh, that's a show reference too.
That's awesome. I feel like I'm Chris's Ralph to his Agnes. So
true.
You are my Ralph.
You're off.
So as we just previously mentioned about 3 jokes ago, this is episode 4 of WandaVision. The episode 4 is entitled
I
We
forgot.
Interrupt This Program. We interrupt this program.
Yeah.
Which I think is an extremely accurate title for this.
Yeah.
Why is this extremely accurate? It doesn't further the WandaVision story right now, the main story. But it does. That's what's awesome about it. It's just like a those old 50s, 60s, 70s, we interrupt your regularly scheduled program for like this announcement or this new show or something. This whole episode gives us the backstory for Geraldine,
Mhm.
whose real name is
Monica Rambeau.
which is just, I just love her name.
Yeah.
I honestly, I love her character. Like she is like one of the, I love the direction Marvel's taking with their female characters.
Mhm.
They're very strong. Not even, they have strong leads, but they've got really strong supporting players as well.
Mhm.
And I think Monica is going to end up being one of those.
Mhm.
I think she's going to be a big part of Phase 4.
Yeah. Especially
they're-
in Capitol too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're in varied roles too. It's not like they're pigeonholing them into just a simple super heroine role. It's different strengths, different weaknesses, different talents, and so there's actual good thought put into it, and I like it because
Yeah.
it's great variety. It makes it feel real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
You don't
And-
have that Mary Sue role type of thing. It actually has substance to it, which personally I find strong females with substance intimidating. But I think it's great. So
I really do too. I agree.
You take
And
out
it's
a
just-
strong in substance, and I feel the same way.
Mm.
Just
Just women.
Strong in substance.
Women in
Just
general.
women in
This
general.
this intimidating. Woman.
So we're gonna break down this episode literally scene by scene, frame by frame again, like we did last episode, because what 3 people that gave me feedback on the Nerkies, they really like what we're doing with it. So we're gonna continue on. And you know, if 4 of you tell me you don't like it, we'll change it. We won't change it because it's our show. We're gonna do whatever we want. But
Yeah.
the 3 people who said that they like it, thank you.
Thank you, 3 people.
I know my wife religiously listens to this. We actually had a discussion about this tonight. And I'm like, you know, honey, you don't actually have to listen to this. I'm like, I appreciate it. You know, that gives us more listens. And I love seeing that number go up. But you don't actually have to listen to this. And she goes, no, you know, one, I'm going to support you and Kyle. And I go, and Justin? She goes, and Justin when he's on. But he's not on every episode. I go, but he's going to be on a lot.
Yeah.
She goes, okay, I'll support Justin because she really loves Justin. I don't know why. I told him about his past. I told her about his past.
Oh.
Don't ask. Squirrels, pants, cheese. I don't know.
Bam.
But she said that she genuinely enjoys listening to this because she learned something that she didn't know. And I'm like, how do you not know this shit? I talk about this stuff all the time. And then I realized that's when she's really good at drowning me out because she kind of just looked past me. And you know, in The Simpsons, when you see Homer, Steamboat Willie's doing the dance, or he has the bird that drinks the water, that's kind of the look I got. But she was smiling, and so she was really good at that. So I'm like, you know what? I'll take it.
You broke the code. You found out.
I didn't break the code. I think she might have told me that. Maybe. But what about you guys? Have you guys gotten any feedback on the show so far, or Nerkies, or in general?
Got some. You know, people are like you said, same thing. Really liking how I guess we're breaking down WandaVision, which I just kind of feel like we're just bullshitting and talking about whatever comes to mind. And
We are.
great theories. All the theories were great, so that probably helps. But yeah, and the other ones, you know, the role playing episodes and things, get some good feedback with those too. So yeah, I'm excited with how things are going with it.
Did you get any feedback on your Nerkies or your recently released episode of Mystery Science Theater?
So yeah, a lot of people I've talked to have said, and because I talk about this stuff with everybody, so this isn't like I hold up my Nerdom and then just release it upon you. As
he's pent up.
Don't
Well,
but you know, these are the conversations I have with my students, or have with my friends, or have with, and so I've worked it into several. You know, someone at school would be like, "Hey, have you seen the latest WandaVision?" And I'd say, you know, as a matter of fact, if you want to learn more about it, you know, here's the podcast, YouTube, all of that. And so there's been good feedback on that. That it's not necessarily industry insiders, and it's not you know, people that are so overly intelligent about the Marvel universe or Mystery Science Theater or whatever, you know, you guys cover. That, well, overly intelligent in the sense of I have no clue what they're talking about, but it's that, like what's named, every man's guide. So it's just the, you know, it's just like sitting around with a bunch of friends talking about it. And I think that's the most inviting and attractive part of this. It's definitely not us being attractive, but the attractive part is, you know, it seems like just a bunch of friends sitting around talking. So I think as the word of mouth goes out more, you guys are just going to get more and more views and hits and listens for sure.
Well, thank you. We'll talk more about this Sunday too. But you don't have to butter us up. We're still going to have you back. We like having you on the show.
Oh, well, I don't actually personally like either of you.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Because,
so there we go.
Because you guys heard it first. He's pent up.
Yeah.
He's pent up, and we're not
Nerdom's
intelligent.
pent up.
So this is great. I mean, we already knew this.
This is a good way to start the episode.
So I'm so happy to be on this show with you unintelligent sons of bitches to talk about things.
Oh, honey, I'm so happy.
You know what I'm saying.
So let's get back to what we're going to talk about.
What's WandaVision? We're on WandaVision 4.
WandaVision episode 4. We interrupt this program. It starts off with a recap. Of briefly of episode 1. Like, no, it was episode 2 where it started because it had Dottie and Geraldine.
Mhm.
And then it went into episode 3 where Wanda had her baby. And if we remember, it's not baby. What was significant about this? It was babies. which means
Babies.
It's following the comic book. After we ended last time, we forgot to mention this. The biggest thing, I guess it's not really a shocker, but biggest part of episode 3 that we forgot to mention, we broke down everything else, was the blip at the end.
Mhm.
Where Vision was questioning, where's Geraldine? What happened to her? And Wanda had that real creepy look on her face and just said, what did she say? She had to go home.
Which is a huge nod to the conversation he had just previously when Agnes had said she has no home.
Right.
Then comes in and says that. So now that's tipping him off. Oh, wait. Something's up here. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it blips.
Yep.
And I believe they're sitting on the couch after that, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So on the
Holding the-
couch or holding the babies.
Yeah. And like that didn't even happen. And I think Wanda had this real shit-eating grin on her face.
It was like an
Um,
evil look, dude. I mean, we talked about it. I think last time we talked about WandaVision was her look and her stare. And I know we'll get more into that later in this episode about this episode, because there was some moments in episode 4 that you didn't see in episode 3, where you're talking about the look and things. And I think and when we get to that, I think it's going to really solidify what you talked about, Chris, about is setting her up to be the big bad. Like when you said that, then I watched episode 4 and I saw those looks again. We went back and rewatched 3. I was like, shit, she's going to be the bad guy. Like you feel it, and you see that transition of, when you see it in so many other movies and things, when the hero and the good guy does the switch, when they become the villain or whatever, you see the struggle start to happen with her, and you can see her kind of struggling, but you see those little flashes of she's getting ready to wreck some shit, and it's going to be awesome, and she's going to be one of those bad guys that you love to hate, that you love them, but you love to hate them, and I just hope that's where we're going with it.
So crossing universes, that's kind of how I felt with Joker.
Mhm.
You knew what was going to happen, but he was just kind of this lovable loser that you just felt terrible for, and then you just saw that spiral into madness. That's kind of how this is for me. Like watching this, it's a train wreck. You know what's going to happen. Well, that's the thing. We don't know what's going to happen. That's why it's really fun guessing, but we know something awful is about to happen.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about it, DC has had the best villains hands down, for forever.
I'll go with that.
But starting with like Black Panther and around that, writing of Black Panther and further, even with Thanos and all of that, the way that they're writing their baddies now in the Marvel MCU is that you actually kind of understand their side. You understand, and so with Wanda as well. So we see that in Black Panther, we see that in Endgame / Infinity War. You can, even though you know that, who was the baddie in Black Panther?
Michael B. Jordan's character?
Say the character's name, but it is slipping my mind. So, but Michael B. Jordan, you understand where he's coming from.
What was his name?
The point of having Wakanda help other people that haven't been down or haven't been helped, and to bring their people up. You understand with Thanos that with balance, all of the resources are getting, taken. And so got to take half away so the balance of those can live peacefully and so you may not like it, but you understand where they come from. And I think Wanda is the next iteration of that, to where, you don't like what she's doing, but you can totally understand that in grief, we do some crazy shit. And it's, you almost feel sorry for her at the same time of fearing her. And that's just excellent writing. So I think MCU has really stepped up their game as far as the baddies. And I was just like, Kyle, like as soon as I watched this episode, the first thing I thought was, man, Chris is right. I think she is going to be the baddie. She's so powerful, and having, how do you fight that? And so that's made it even more interesting, and I'm even more excited for Phase 4 now because of that.
And it's so good for them to go through this to flesh it out, because I think if she becomes the villain, which I think we're really leaning towards that now, if she does become the villain, I think this series, them doing WandaVision is going to make her the most relatable villain, because they're going to have so much time to really flesh it out. They're not going to flesh it out in the second act of a movie. It's going to be fleshed out over several episodes. And the format of doing it in the TV show, which it's not as big and boisterous as doing a full feature film. I think you get a little bit more connected to her. You can relate to her a little bit more. It seems more personable. And the way they did the first half of the season with the levity and the comic relief with the sitcom style stuff, you kind of get sucked in a little bit. So I think she will be. She's going to be the villain that we're most vested in. I feel like you get connected and attached to the big bads in all the other movies, not just Marvel, but in DC and Star Wars, everything, where you get connected to them, but you seem like you get connected to them like after the fact. Like Star Wars with Vader, you didn't, the first time you saw Vader and you saw everything that he did, you didn't connect to, I like this bad guy in the beginning. It was later, after a few rewatches and kind of settling into the movies, you become like, you have people that are, you're a Vader fan, like right over your shoulder. And I think we're going to have that effect with her if she goes the big bad route, because this has more time to flesh out. We've already connected with her as the good guy. We're going to see the transition. And so I think she's probably going to be the most interesting bad guy. Again, disclaimer, if it goes that route, which I think it is.
Phantom Menace is Kyle's favorite Star Wars movie, because he learns all that backstory about Darth Vader, and so
he's a big Jar Jar fan. So you're thinking Eric Killmonger, by the way, too.
There you go. Thank you.
But I totally agree with what you guys are saying. We're gonna have 8 hours to flesh out this versus like an hour. 30 minutes. I love the direction Disney's taking with this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that Disney buying out Marvel was the best thing for them. Yeah. I really do at this point. That I also think, I think the same for Star Wars. It's, even though Disney's kind of the big bad, I think it was the best thing for them, because they have more freedom that they can do now. And they have budgets. Yeah, that's always important, because Fantastic Four.
As I have with the last movie in the Star Wars that was released, but with Clone Wars, it's excellent. And the new season that came out with Disney Plus, Rebels, is excellent. So I think definitely something to that, because I don't think just Star Wars as its own entity would have had the opportunity to do a lot of that money, and the opportunity for Disney Plus and other things.
Right.
I think that's where we're going to see the Star Wars effect trickle over to Marvel with the spin-offs and the TV series, and they're going to, Disney Plus is a great medium, I think, for them to explore, for them to expand universes like they're doing with Star Wars, to do the same thing with Marvel. So it's going to be. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic about it.
Proves that too. I mean, Mandalorian, besides Rogue One, in my opinion, is the most Star Wars show since the original trilogy. And so, I think you're spot on with what you're saying.
Well, if we didn't mention it, Justin will probably be on the Star Wars episodes too, because he's seen Rebels and all that stuff.
Talk to Blank and Walls about Star Wars all day. So
ask his wife. Yeah. Not that she's the blank wall. I'm saying that
Tony
she sees him talking to the blank wall. Wally's pen up. So we should probably get to WandaVision now.
Oh yeah, we're doing that.
We have to.
We kind of did. I mean, we got excited.
We hit
you know?
again. We do what we normally do. We're coming back to it. So we're back on the flashback, and we see Wanda asking Geraldine about her pendant, which Geraldine, if you remember, seemed really confused about it. She's just like, "This is just a pendant." And after seeing episode 4, that plays a lot more into it.
Mm-hmm.
It actually makes sense why she's like, it's just a pendant. You know, we see the beekeeper, we see the helicopter, we see the forceful expulsion of Geraldine from what we now know is some sort of force field, some force barrier. And just knocked the hell out, basically. She's out. You could tell her eyes were like the back of her head. And all these agents come running up at her with guns.
Mhm.
And then from there, her eyes kind of shut and everything goes black. From there, we see the return of the snap, the return from the snap. We see her recombining the snapback.
Mhm.
We see her recombining again, which I thought was, I was not expecting that at all.
Very cool.
I thought that they like, did you think you would see this level of animation, just a visual effect from this show? Because I sure didn't.
Mm-mm.
I mean, they honestly, they probably just reuse stuff from Endgame, but I don't care. It's awesome.
Oh, it looks so good. Yeah, I was before Mandalorian, I was expecting, oh, these Disney shows are just going to be, you know, Agents of Shield, you know, something like that, to where it's okay as far as the special effects, but it's not like, you know, movie level. And after watching, of course, 2 seasons of Mandalorian, I should have known. But yeah, it's the effects in this is spot on with everything that's in the movies, and I think it's great.
Yeah,
I do too. So we don't know where Geraldine is. We're gonna keep calling her Geraldine because we don't know otherwise yet. So she's sitting in this chair, and you know, she wakes up and her hands appear. And then she looks over. She just completely shocked. She looks over, and she's very obviously in one of those waiting chairs in a hospital by a bed, looking at the hospital, just confused as hell. And if you guys remember your Avengers movie lore, the snapback happened 5 years after the snap.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 5 years later. So we know that Geraldine has been gone for 5 years. You know, just what I loved about this, like, she played this great. She just bolted out of that room. And as she's bolting out, people are just reappearing. She gets a doctor and is like, you know, I think he asked for a cell phone, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like, I got to call my wife. Obviously, his wife was part of the snap.
Yeah. Either that he appeared.
Right. And with as much as was going on in this scene, I thought that they did it great because it was like one long continuous camera shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just following her throughout. And I will completely admit that at first when she was walking, I thought it was bees from the beekeeper at one point when she's walking through that corridor. But it ended up people coming back from the snap, like reappearing. So I thought it was bees. I got really excited for a minute. I'm like, it's the beekeeper. It was just people.
My train of thought went somewhere completely different. That wasn't even
What do you
Marvel.
think it was?
I mean, the feel I got from it, like when I saw it all happen, like I kept expecting to see like Rick Grimes pop out of a side room, like because there's all this chaos, and like they went like so.
Don't open
like
dead inside.
Yeah, the first words out of my mouth, like I audibly said it and there was nobody around to hear me say it. It's like, oh god, they went full Walking Dead. Like, no, wait a minute. And so like I paused it right after the guy was asking for the phone to call his wife, and I yelled at my daughter to come in there. She finished the previous episode with me. He's like, you got to finish that one, and you're watching this one with me. I don't want to watch any of the rest of it until we're sitting here watching it. And because I needed a viewing partner with me, and so I didn't think that she would stick through it. She was like 10 minutes in. She's like, I don't want to watch anything else. I'm going to go back to my room. As soon as that scene happened, she was like on the edge of her seat. She was sucked in, and we finished the whole episode together. But that's the vibe I got. I was like, oh my God, they went full Walking Dead.
That's awesome. I didn't even think about that.
As I was watching it, I was thinking, man, this is shot, the steady cam, but also a little bit shaky first person, and it's following her around. People are just materializing. She's running into them, all of this. And I thought, man, this is shot like a horror film. This is shot like it's not a typical Marvel or a typical Disney. Just even from the beginning, you can tell that this episode is different from the rest. And this season or this the series is different from everything else as well. And it just keeps reinventing and reestablishing new norms for not only the episode, but the series and for the MCU. So it's interesting that your first thought was Walking Dead, because I got that same vibe of just some type of horror, some type of very
New Mutants-ish.
And the Walking Dead thought led me down a terribly like morbid thought path of all this. Once I realized what was happening, it was a snapback. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, they're in a hospital. So you have people that blipped, you have people that poofed 5 years ago. Now they're coming back. So, half of everything disappeared. What if you're in that hospital, and in that half was somebody that was like just about to die, like they're on the table and they're about to kick the bucket, and then they poof, and then they come back like, oh, everything's great again, and then they pick up right where they left off. I'm like, oh, now I'm dying again. After I died once, now I have to die again. I don't know.
What if there's someone on the table? Do they materialize inside that other person, or on top of, or below?
Or what if they were doing like open heart surgery and they blipped?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they come back all open-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. I would have rather stayed blipped.
Deep thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
Way to bring that one down.
Get that out of your head now. Where are you at with that, Marvel?
And I can't. Thank you.
You got holes in the plot.
Sudden, she got holes. So Geraldine hits this guy, and he goes flying. I'm not talking like all the way across the screen, but he hit the ground hard. Mm-hmm. My first thought was, oh God, she's a soup. She's a mutant. She's got some sort of superpowers. But then it pans out and she's on the ground too. So she just hit him really hard because she was kind of running. So that was my thought on that scene.
We kind of glazed over to the voices she heard as she was coming to.
What was the voices?
She heard Captain Marvel. She heard.
Oh, she did, didn't she?
She heard her mom.
She heard her mom. I think one other. Those were the two I remember. One calling her Lieutenant Trouble.
Wasn't that Carol?
I think so. Yeah. So, yep. There's a little throwback there to maybe some foreshadowing, something.
Oh, I think that's just complete foreshadowing.
Scene. Yeah.
I think it's complete foreshadowing for her her relationship with Carol.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is all gonna play. We're getting this more. I think this is all gonna play something huge for Captain Marvel too. Mm-hmm. Which sucks because it's scheduled for like the end of 2022.
Yeah.
So thanks, Marvel.
Thanks.
Thanks, Obama. Not getting political, just thought that was ironic and funny. She's confused. Everyone in this hospital in this scene is confused, but then she sees a familiar face. And it's this doctor, and she goes, I believe she called her by her name, didn't she? She goes, Monica?
And some doctor lady.
Doctor lady?
Doctor lady?
Doctor lady?
Doctor lady?
She seemed very strong and independent, so I turned it off. I was already
you were done.
I was intimidated.
Terrified.
Yeah, Dr. Harley is what she said. So it's a doctor that she was familiar with. And the reason why, of course, she was in the hospital is because of her mom.
Right.
So, yeah.
And she said, you know, basically what's going on? Where's my mom? And the doctor's just looking at her and she goes, you just told me everything went well on her surgery. You said everything went perfect and my mom's great. And then the doctor just like, you know, what the hell are you saying? Your mother died.
Mhm.
You were gone. Where, you know, she died of I think it was cancer, wasn't it?
Cancer 2 years after the blip.
Surgery. Yeah, after the blip. And then Geraldine, who we now know is Monica, for a fact is Monica Rambeau. It's her just kind of dealing with this, and it, you know, pops to which I love the Marvel openings with all the characters and how it flips through the comics. Like that's one of my favorites. Do you guys think they're going to change that? Because so everything in there was phase 1 or phase 1, 2, and 3.
I would say they'd have to, you know, probably keep the main style as they introduce new characters, as they introduce new, you know, movie characters, but also Disney Plus characters. I think they would have to change something, but yeah, I would think yes.
After that, then we go out to what's this Sword headquarters, Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division, which is different than the comics. They did change that. And if you look, it's this old hangar. Was this the hangar from Captain Marvel, where Carol had her plane, where they were at the old base?
I think her hangar was there was a larger tarmac. I think there were multiple hangars.
Okay,
Captain Marvel.
Because I wasn't sure on this one. But then we see the big sword logo. These giant screens on TV. And then we see Monica walking in, going up to the door and putting her badge up. And like most of us who this has ever happened to, it's not opening because they're trying to tell her something. And this jerkweed, you know, starts yelling at her, telling her to come over, and it's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm Monica Rambeau. I'm what was she a lieutenant colonel?
I think she was a lieutenant.
That's right. Or
lieutenant.
She was captain.
Captain Rambeau.
Yeah, that's how she was addressed from the director, whoever walks in.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Which I think is going to be a nod, you know, to Captain Marvel, but that's for another day. Right.
And so basically, he's like, you know, if you worked here, you would be able to get in. She's like, I work here. He'd be able to get in. And she's kind of arguing with him. Then this suit walks up and basically says, don't you recognize Captain Rambeau? And he's like, come on, I'll take care of you. This is, hold on, let me get to my notes here that I wrote down. This is our first look at, where's his name? Where did I put that?
Hayward.
Is it Tyler Hayward?
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds
Does
right.
that sound right?
Yeah.
As you guys can tell, we didn't like watch this like 30 times. Yeah, Tyler Hayward. So you find out that he's the new director as he's leading in. When her mom died, he took over. And she's basically like, you know, he tells her, I was the only choice. And she's like, well, that's cool. You know, I'll follow you. That's how it is. I've been gone. And you come to find out she's only been out of the hospital, or like been back for like 3 days, something like that. And she's already reporting for work.
2 weeks, and she was the first one back.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Which is awesome. He leads her into her office, and you know, he first they start going through, I thought this was really important, this like hangar. And in the hangar, looks like they're taking apart something, which to me looks like some sort of ship. I don't know what kind. I was trying to identify what the ship was.
I took it as they were actually assembling a ship. because he mentioned to her about astronaut program and how she was, I think, to give her a little bit more backstory, everyone else had lost their nerve that was in this program, but she shows up and is there and ready to work. But yeah, I personally saw it as them assembling some type of.
Did you think so? Yeah, I think you might be right on that. I was trying to figure out what it was.
There was something like right before that. Did you catch the plaque on the wall? Her plaque on the wall as they were going down the hallway going to the hangar?
With her mom?
No.
Yeah.
It was
Maria Photon Rambo.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was her mom, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. No, those were Photon was Maria's call sign in Captain Marvel. So it wasn't Photon. This is from my research, not from my comic book knowledge. One of the
Carol was Photon at one point.
Yeah. And that was her super, or was that her just her call sign? I don't remember.
I think it was her call sign. So in the comics, Carol was Captain Marvel. She was Photon, I believe, and then she was Binary at one point too. So if any of those come into play, that might be it. I might be wrong on the Photon. I swear she was Photon though. But no, I completely forgot about that.
Sister, in the comics, Maria's daughter Monica becomes a superhero in her own right, and Photon is one of the many code names she takes up.
I think she was Captain Marvel in the comics too. Like that was one of her call signs. She was the one made out of light with the white costume and like kind of the cape. I wonder if that was her. Damn it, I'm gonna have to look that up. Thanks, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mom. Damn it, I'm gonna have to look that up now. So they're talking about how basically before they get into his office, which says director. To me, it's a very minimalist office for a director. It's not that big. And like, like in other movies, like big CIA directors have these huge offices that you walk into. This one was kind of small. So I don't know if that's telling us something or if it's just how it was.
Yeah. And I think it says in there that he's the acting director. So it may just be a temporary type of thing, but yeah, you can definitely tell the importance of a man by the size of his office. Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a small office at work.
You got office envy.
I do got office envy. So this was really important, this scene, I think, because I noticed something in it. As they're walking and he's going to sit down, they kind of part ways. She goes to sit in the chair, he's unbuttoning his jacket on his suit to go sit down. If you look at the plaques on the wall, they're on the shape of a hexagon.
Ooh, I didn't catch that.
The hexagon was also prevalent on the Beekeeper's back.
Mm-hmm.
If you go look at I had to go look back. There's a hexagon in every one of the 4 episodes so far.
The one in the intro for episode 2 with the
one that Kyle.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like the shield thing. A hexagon, you could say, is in a pentagram style too.
You just have hex.
So hex. I mean, yeah. Oh, hex powers like Wanda. So I don't know if that's the hexagons are going to play a part. I just don't know how yet, because they've been in every single episode. And just go back and watch. You'll see hexagons all over. And that could be Mephisto.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So you're saying this could be a simulation within a simulation?
Ooh.
With a Mephisto? Like if these are small little nods, this is Mephisto creating this reality?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. All I know is that there's hexagons everywhere. If you start once you start noticing it, you're going to start seeing it.
Yep. I see the plaques now. I'm pulling you and I have
You
to
see
pull
them?
it up on. Yep. I did not catch that. That's
Um,
awesome.
So they start talking, and then he tells her that she's grounded. Means, and she's like, "What do you mean I'm grounded?" He's like, "You're not going back up into space.
No more
So
TV for
obviously
you. No more
No more
snack.
TV, young lady."
Takes her.
Which means obviously she's taking after Carol. And you come to find out that her mom's the one who started Sword too, after all this conversation, which was big.
Yeah.
The reason she got grounded was it was her mom's protocols. If agents disappear and come back, they're not in space anymore. I think this is a safety thing.
Mhm.
Because they watch for extraterrestrial activity and cosmic. Cosmic, like we said, is a big theme right now, which leads me to think that Phase 4 is going to be our cosmic powers, like Carol has. But then another thing to note when they're having this conversation is they talk about how half the astronauts that they sent into space haven't come back. Do you guys have theories on that? I've got a big theory on that one.
Did he mean that? Okay, so that part confused me. Did he mean they did not come back from space, or they have not come back since the blip, or
they did not come back from space?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I took that as relating to his earlier conversation about how they several people had lost their nerve, and so half of them just after the blip didn't come back. That's how I took it. But yeah, because I'm interested.
Kyle.
I was thinking the same way Justin was, but now that you have that thought in my head, did they just not come back at all?
I think that this is how they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four.
Ooh.
The 4 astronauts did not come back after space. We know that there's cosmic stuff that they are researching. This hit me halfway through that because when we get further into this explanation of this episode, they're talking about cosmic powers. I'm wondering if this is how they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four into the universe now that they own the rights. And this is the way to do it, because now that they can say, oh yeah, no, these astronauts were lost in space. Because if you remember, they were part of this Fantastic Four history and lore. They were part of this program that went up into space, got bombarded by this cosmic radiation, and they crashed. They never got back to the program fully. My thought is this is how they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four. Because it just hit me, like I said, 4 astronauts never came back. Could be wrong. But that's kind of what I was thinking.
Man, if this series introduces mutants and Fantastic Four, it's doing some heavy lifting.
I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
They're having to retcon all this.
Oh, they can retcon, but they can subtly introduce things, just like what you said with the cosmic. And there's so many things that they can just throw little bitty nods to, and that's enough for them to reference back to in a year, 3 years, 4 years, whatever, since they do have the rights to everything now, to be able to introduce these things. So they can set it up, and I think they can, even drop things in here if they're just even like half-ass planning on maybe implementing it. At least that, 2 or 3 years down the road, we can go back and say, oh, okay, they were thinking about this all along, whether or not they were actually going to put it in or not. Because I think Sword was actually, I didn't catch this. I remember it after reading it. Sword was actually mentioned way earlier.
In the series or in Marvel movies?
In Marvel movies. It was.
Really?
Yeah. After I read it, it clicked back to me. It was in Thor.
We'll have to go rewatch Thor now.
Yeah, line dialogue, alternate ending to Thor. Eric Selvig told his team to cross-reference with the Sword database. So that was kind of like dropped in a long time ago. Whether or not they were ever going to use it didn't matter, but now it's there. And so now it is canon, even if it wasn't canon then. It had the potential to become canon later.
But it's canon now, yeah.
But it's canon now. Smart move.
Which makes you wonder if they knew all this from the get-go, from the design phase.
It makes you wonder that, or if they were they're hedging their bets. Like, okay, we can put this in now. That way, if it does happen, we do acquire the rights down the road. If we do decide to go this route, then we already have it in place. And if we don't, it's just a cool little thing that we dropped in that the Uber fans will catch.
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't put it
Oh.
in Feige. I mean, you look at how phase 1 and folded into phase 2, and big things that happened in phase 1 come back and hit phase 3 to make even bigger impact. I wouldn't put it past him to have planned all of this out, and that is some type of nod to what we're going to see for sure.
Tyler starts talking about how the FBI, her first assignment is she has to travel to the city, to this town. It's not even a city, it's a town, because the FBI requested their help. And she's like, you want me to go? It's a missing persons case. And she's like, you want me to go look at this? He goes, just trust me, you're going to want to check this one out. And if in the background of Tyler, I don't know if you guys saw this, there's a huge star chart, like a gigantic star chart, which makes you think, okay, well, we guys already know what SWORD is, but they have their hands in everything intergalactic or galactic, which I think is another nod towards the cosmic phase being phase 4.
So are you saying like the Earth equivalent of the Nova Corps?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Which I hope we get a Rich Rider in phase 4, Nova. I hope we get that, because I don't think they did the Nova Corps justice at all. Like, I actually hated that. So Monica pulls up to Westview and she sees someone there, and immediately when he turned, I knew who it was. That agent that she saw, the FBI agent, was
Agent Woo.
Jimmy Woo. Was it Jimmy Woo?
Jimmy Woo
Yes.
was in Ant-Man?
Ant-Man and the Wasp. And if you remember, he was Scott's keeper under house arrest. He was also Clint Barton's keeper while Clint was under house arrest.
Ooh,
So
forgot
Jimmy
that.
Woo plays a big part in the Marvel Universe. And what I thought was awesome, the minute that he starts walking out, he sees her, he pulls that card out all of a sudden, which if you remember, he was still learning it. So he's had 5 years to perfect it, and he finally got it, which I just thought was a cool nod to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I love his character in this whole episode, just as dry and like as matter of fact as he is with all the conversations he has and the humor that comes through with it. I freaking love it.
He's just a great character. He really is.
I'd love it if they expanded and had a spin-off to where he's like the Agent Mulder of the Marvel Universe. So they send him out to all these weird, super hero-based adventures where he's trying to figure things out. Man, that would be cool if this was the start of something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
The Woo Files.
The Woo Files. So they go up to these two cops, and he said, sheriff or whatever, sheriff officer, why don't you tell Agent Rambo what you just told me about Westview? And he's like, there is no Westview. She's like, even though you're sitting right here, he's like, I mean, there's an Eastview.
Yeah, and they're literally standing in front of a sign that says "Welcome to Westview," a sign that we've seen before in the show with the population and all of that. So yeah, we first nod that something's not right.
Mm-hmm. Which means that, and Wu goes to tell Rambo, my missing person. What did he say? He said something like, my missing person went to Westview.
Yeah. And his contacts for the missing person. So he contacted family, friends, his list of contacts. I guess off his dossier or whatever for the missing person. Never heard of him. He was like truly a missing person.
Mm-hmm. And the line that really stood out to me was Monica asked him, why didn't you go in? And he replied to her simply, the town didn't want me to.
Mhm.
Which it reminds me of like Doom Patrol. I'm like, is the town alive? Is it like Danny the Street?
Love Danny the Street.
I do too. Who's a gender fluid street, by the way. But and then Monica pulls out this big case and says sword on it, and it's a drone. It's a highly advanced drone. It is if it's a sword property, but it just looks like a little helicopter that happens to be red and yellow. Why is that significant, gentlemen?
Captain Marvel colors.
To me, that's Captain Marvel colors, and
it's also the red, the vibrant colors that we see all the way back. I think it was episode 1 that Wanda sees, and that's the one thing that she sees in color.
Yeah, she sees the helicopter
too, but yeah, she sees that in color.
Well, it's important to note too that I pointed this out to my wife. I go, yeah, I don't know what kind of helicopter that is, because it's like a helicopter drone. I go, because the controller she's using is a DJI controller for a Mavic. I go, I have the same one. I go, it's not that advanced. And so,
actually,
she just kind of looked at me. I go, actually, but just little tidbits, just so you all know, it's a DJI Mavic controller. And it goes into what we now know is the force field once you get to a certain point in the town, and it disappears. And then the closer Monica gets to it, then all of a sudden it looks like, you remember those old tube TVs when you got too close, there was like that weird, like electromagnetic glow to it.
Yeah.
And it looked very just like pixelated. That's what it looked like when she got up there.
They're probably also giving off radiation. So
yeah, I agree.
Those
I agree.
Are why I don't have good eyesight now, because I'd always sit way too close to it.
You're going to ruin your eyes.
Why Kyle has to wear a hat now?
It's growing back. Okay. It's coming back. I'm not at Justin level yet, but I'm getting there. Well, my favorite is that when Monica started reaching out towards it, and Agent Wu was like, I wouldn't do that. And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And she reaches in and all of a sudden gets pulled in. And he's like, he's worried, but he still doesn't like elevate his tone. He doesn't yell. He doesn't freak out. He's still like at the same level as normal conversation. I would have been freaking out, if I would have seen somebody just get sucked into the nether like that. But he's just like, are you okay? What?
Well, he is such a great character. He really is. Like, out of, I think, I've talked about Coulson's like one of my favorites, like non-soups. But I also think that Jimmy Woo is quickly getting up to like my favorite top 3.
Just may fill that void.
I think he's a great character.
Fill that Coulson void.
So why do you think it accepted Monica but didn't take Jimmy?
Because he didn't put his hand in there?
Well, he says he didn't go in because it didn't want me to.
Oh, I don't know then. That's a good thought.
Tried, but it was almost like a force field to where he tried and it wouldn't let him go in. So
he tried to drive through it or something.
Drive through it, walk through it, something. But he says it didn't want me, which I think is a nod to it's not a thing. It's something, or it's not a inanimate object.
It's sentient.
It didn't want me, and so
something didn't. Yeah.
A nod that it's something real, something living. But I think it's interesting because originally I thought, well, maybe it didn't take him because he's FBI and it doesn't want authority or police figure type thing. But I mean, that's exactly what Monica is, just with a more militarized side of it. So I think it's interesting to, why it would take, and it could be that, um, I don't know.
Could he have just got the heebie-jeebies and didn't want to walk up to it?
Yeah.
Like it. I mean, we see that part where she goes in, and we know that there's definitely something going on, and we feel like that's the barrier of influence of Westview, or and of Wanda creating that or whatever. But if you go back before that scene, just a few minutes before the sheriff's department even say Westview does not exist, there's a off-ramp exit sign for Westview off the interstate that she takes. And so that started to, when I went back and watched it the second time, that started to make me think, well, is there influence of whatever's going on here, whatever she's creating, beyond the boundaries that we see, beyond the bubble? And so how far is she able to reach with changing reality? We don't know how far the exit is from there, but it's obviously a little bit of a ways, because her travel time there, but it's outside of the bubble. And so something changed. She was able to change something even further away. So what else has changed? What else is being manipulated? Are we going to have another episode down the road where we find out like things that happened in this pre Monica going to Westview didn't actually happen right? Maybe with the director, maybe something else. How far out was she able to reach and change perception of things?
So let's talk about the director again, Tyler. I think he's going to play a big part in Phase 4 because of Sword. I got creepy vibes from him, like he's going to be bad news for a lot of what's coming up. Like he just seemed greasy to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, something just didn't sit right with me about him. And especially with the hexagon shape, I don't know, just something didn't sit right.
You think he's going to be like the new Obadiah?
Maybe. Very, very possible. Or he may be worse. What if he's like a Robert Redford's character or another Thunderbolt Ross?
I'm starting to see the similarities with Phase 1 kicking off, because you had Obadiah take over in Tony's absence. You have I already forgot his name. The new director taking over in an absence. And so, I mean, the be kind of recycling a little bit, and you have second man on the totem pole now in power. Maybe he's the new Obadiah.
Could be. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, you're absolutely right. He could be the new Obadiah. Which makes you wonder, he's not going to have the Ironmonger. He's going to have something a lot cooler.
Yeah. I'm rooting for that now. I want to see something cooler. So
I have a feeling we will. It'll be like Voltron. So we pan out, it says 24 hours later, which I think is very significant, because this is a testament to how fast Sword can mobilize. We see this van coming in, and it pans inside, and you see these characters, and it's this gentleman, and then it pans next to her, and who is it? It is Darcy Lewis from Thor. Kat Dennings, she was one of my favorites in the Thor movies.
Yeah,
because she was very, very ditzy, but she was kind of Jane's protege. And she's just very, very Darcy. And that's the best way to describe her. And first thing she does is she's like asking the guy across from her, and it's like, what do you do? And it's like, the guy to me looked like Walmart Ray Romano. The best choice version, kind of, a little bit.
Mom, can we get Ray Romano? We have Ray Romano at home.
No, let's get the best choice. It's cheaper.
Kirkland Music.
Yeah, get your Ray Romano off Wish. So.
Yeah, Ray Romano. That's even better. But he just looks frightened. He's like, we're not supposed to talk to each other. She's like, oh, okay. And then so she asked the next person, what do you do? What do you do? And it was like microbiologist. She was an and then, what was the other?
Intelligence, astrophysicist.
Yeah, Darcy's an astrophysicist, which means she's made it. 5
Yeah.
years. No, it's longer than 5 years since we saw her last.
Mhm.
But means she's a full-blown scientist, and she's been pulled in by the government, which means she's probably an expert in her field.
And she's a doctor at this point because she does correct one of the guys leading her into the facilities.
Oh,
He
that's
calls her
right.
miss, and she's like, doctor.
Dr. Lady.
Mhm.
And what I loved about this scene, it was classic vintage Darcy, because she's like, she's asking, everyone's talking. She's like, astrophysicist, and the guy goes, I do. She's like, yeah, I don't care.
He was
She's
the
like, I'm
chemical.
done with you.
Yeah, the chemical. He was a chemical engineer, I think. Is what
That's what he was. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. She's like, yeah, I don't care.
I don't care. I love
And
Darcy.
she looked away. Oh, I do too. I thought it was great. And then you get there, and it's this massive camp set up with tents everywhere, just lots of activity. Like, they put down, it looks like some sort of road.
Yeah.
Well, as a callback, it reminded me of in Thor, whenever they had put up that big tent and that whole thing around the Mjolnir. It was kind of the same idea, because you had the olive shield all around it. You had people patrolling. You had people studying it and doing all this. And it was very reminiscent, I think. And her being the one walking into this, I don't think that's too much of a coincidence that she was in Thor, and this scene is a lot like that.
Right. I never thought of that either. That's actually really good. It starts panning out, and you see stadium lights all around the perimeter of the force field. And this is what stood out to me, because I loved this part. They're sending in drones left and right, and they're just disappearing. But that's not the part that stood out to me. I don't think they meant for this to happen, but it looks like it to me. Go back and watch it. Pause it. It's at around the almost 12-minute mark, like 11:50-ish, 11:45, somewhere around there, where it says Sword Responsive Base outside Westview, New Jersey. There's the two people walking towards the barrier, and then there's this truck pulling up, and it kind of goes into this ditch, and it stops all of a sudden. It looks like an AT-AT to me.
I see what you're talking about. I'm following.
Do you see it?
Yeah. Yep.
It looks like an AT-AT. Like a weird AT-AT, but it looks like an AT-AT.
I was looking at the colors of when the drones get sucked in and they disappear.
It's Technicolor.
It's Technicolor.
By the amazing Rando. If you listen to our Mystery Science Theater episode, you'd know what that meant.
If you haven't, go back and do that.
Even though we didn't mention the amazing Rando, we will next one.
Mm-hmm.
They're leading them all into this tent, and basically that's when he's like, when he says ma'am, are you ready? And she's like, doctor, or whatever. And this guy, very no nonsense, and Darcy, just being Darcy's following in. They take them all away, which means that they're going to their little respective areas. And he's like, here's all your equipment. And this is some of the most high-tech stuff you've seen in there. And this is what I love. And she watches a drone just disappear, and just like, what the hell is going on? And I think did she ask for coffee at that point? Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
And he just stared at her, and she's like, okay. And then as she's pulling up this, her briefcase, she's like, what is this right here? And he's just sitting here staring at her, watching. And she's hooking up her little device. And is that when she started picking up the signal? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She hooked in this device and was seeing all this weird stuff on there. And she's like, this is radiation. This is cosmic radiation. I believe she said this is, and he's like, is that bad? Is it dangerous? She's like, it will be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it lends some credit to my theory that this is going to be the same wavelength of radiation that the cosmic radiation was for the Fantastic Four. That's why I think they're going to bring them in.
Mm.
I
I
got
think this is how they're alluding.
something else out of this scene because she's explaining it, and so, it's cosmic microwave background radiation. That it originated with the Big Bang, right? I think that was her explanation of it. So this radiation, this source, is as old as time itself. And one of the theories that we've been pursuing is who may be pulling the strings behind all this, behind Wanda, who may be pulling the strings, is Mephisto.
Yeah.
The
Being
devil,
as old as time. Yep.
Satan, the devil. And so that's something else that kind of stuck with me is like maybe this is just a little nod, little hint that the source of this power, the source of all this weird shit that we're seeing happen right now, originated with something as old as time, and maybe that'll play into it some.
And then she started picking up something else. Did she start hearing it, or she picked up something else, right?
She saw it like overlaid.
Yeah, she got the frequency, picking up that frequency.
And then she pulled out this giant, it looked like the old, like when Justin and I first went to college and had to climb up like 3 stairs in Logan Hall, or whatever dorm you're living in. The old huge computer, that's what it reminded me of, those old clunky computers. She was picking it up and she's like, don't worry, I got this. Is the guy sitting here staring at her. I mean, I'm like, that's just Darcy right there. That's awesome. She hooks it in and hooks up that little I don't know if it's like a Geiger counter or whatever it is, and she's turning the knobs, and all of a sudden this picture starts coming in, and there's Wanda, and from, was it 50s or was it the 60s one?
This was the first episode that we saw.
Yeah.
Right. And which is just awesome. Then all of a sudden this guy in like this hazmat suit, this huge hazmat suit, comes out, and he's talking to director Tyler, and they're hooking him to this thing, and all of a sudden he's getting into this little pipe, and they're talking about how we can't go over or through the barrier, so we're going to go under. There's sewers under there, which at that point 2 and 2 clicked for me who this guy was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to me, he was the beekeeper if he's going in through the sewers.
Right.
But I'm like, but wait, maybe he's not, because he's not dressed like a beekeeper. He's in this really modern hazmat suit.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see him crawling, and he's hooked to this. Why this is important, this will play in to the rest of this episode. He's got this cable hooked to him as he's crawling through it all. And then you see Jimmy talking to Tyler as they're walking out, and they're just what are they talking about at that point? I don't remember.
Basically, they're going over different theories about what it could be and the danger level of what this thing is, but they're still not sure, what the force field is and how to get there and all of that. So basically discussing that.
So, and then if you look as they're walking in, if you look at the monitors on the sides as they're walking in, and then they get to this one that's there in the middle, it shows the shape of the force field, and it's a hexagon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, there's some sort of overlay too, like with all these lines, and they all center on one point. They all come back to one point, and I think that's Wanda. I think that's just showing the powers. I mean, what did you guys take from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, the hex with the hex powers and it being the hexagon, it seemed just natural. This is the form that Wanda is putting out there because that's her powers.
Right.
I didn't catch the hexagon, and I didn't catch the intersection. What I saw from it was the look, the style of the interface of the programs that they're using, what the screens looked like, what everything looked like, and I just immediately thought back to Iron Man and Jarvis and Tony Stark's basement. Like everything has that that Stark Industries look and feel to the UI for everything that they're using, which I thought was pretty cool. Which makes me wonder, like, is there some Stark tie-ins to Sword?
Well, and there very well could be, because Marvel's got the show that's going to be on Disney Plus, Armor Wars, which is based off of Tony's stolen tech. What happens
Okay.
when the creator's gone? So maybe that might be a good tie-in. That's a great theory too, Kyle. Like, seriously, because it's again, Marvel shows everything has a purpose.
Mhm.
Then they hear, like, I think it's was it laughter they heard?
Yeah,
And they're
laughter and talking, Wanda talking.
yeah, and they're going, well, what the hell is that? And Jimmy sees Darcy just sitting there, and they all start gathering around. Oh, it's important to note too, before that, rewinding, Darcy asked for an old TV, a tube TV, as old as you can get. And so she was sitting here watching this TV. And then it pans to episode 1 with Wanda and the little sexy number, when she's trying to seduce Vision. And they're like, when is this? When are we watching this? She's like, right now. Like, this is happening right now. And they're like, is this real? Basically it's like, yeah, this is what we're watching. It's like this. And then we see Agnes, and it's just basically they're watching episode 1. Which I thought was just great.
Yeah.
Are you scanning through as we're going through this, kind of looking at it and going, like, you have it pulled up, kind of looking at it?
Yep.
Something I just noticed, because I'm actually at a computer screen where my eyes can get closer to, like, make sense of things. And so if you have it paused where she has the screen up, she's watching it on the old school TV, and there's a soundboard, there's a mixer right next to that TV. You can see you can see the sliders and everything. In the top left corner of that mixer, it looks like there's a damn QR code there.
Yeah, I can see it.
But it's not. It's at an angle where you can't scan it. I'm gonna have to go back and try that.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see.
But yeah, to the left, there's why they're
I guarantee
using.
you.
That's a QR code.
Yeah.
It has to be. So you guys that are listening and not watching, we can't show footage from the show because of copyright and all that stuff. But go back. It's about the 15-minute, 42-second mark. You pause it, and there's a QR code there. If anybody can actually get a good grab of that and scan it, let us know, because I'm curious as to what it could go to.
I'm trying to figure out what the switches they're using now.
I figured you would get on that run of it, but yeah. So yeah, you guys, if you can find out if that actually is a QR code, and you can scan it, and you can let us know, throw a link to us, and let us see. Because I'm going to try to, and don't freaking rickroll us, please. Give us something real.
Is that a Rude board?
Looks like kind of like a Rode Podcaster board or whatever. It's just, it doesn't look like something that they would use for this, but they got all kinds of random tech thrown around
Stuff
in there.
in that, right?
I mean, it's got lights. It lights up red, green, blue. It's
right,
cool
right,
looking.
right.
I think it's cool that they
Oh, I got a better angle of the QR code now.
do what?
You let it go just a minute. There's a little bit of a better angle of the QR code, but I don't know if you can actually get it.
Angle like around 1550, somewhere in that range.
1553. Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't my phone wouldn't find it, but I think it's really cool how they are telling us when this is happening without telling us when this is happening. So by it going and them saying this is live and it's the first episode, we now know where they are in time with what we've already seen in those first episodes. So I think it's a really smart way for them to put the time frame together for us. But I think what Darcy says there to the director is really important to answer a lot of our questions. She says, or he asked about Vision. He says, and she says he's dead, not blipped, like dead. And so it's reaffirming that the Vision that we're seeing is not really Vision. because Vision is actually dead. And so that answers a lot of questions that I had in the very beginning. And also here soon, we're going to see something that we're going to talk about it with Vision.
Yes, we are.
Reaffirm that too.
So, and then, another Darcy moment. She's like, so can I get the coffee yet? And she's like, no. Okay. And then it's the end of the first episode where they're kissing and, Darcy does the, oh. And then here's what I found interesting. Then they got to the credits and it's, the still frame. I want to know who all these names are.
These
aren't names by chance. Yeah.
A lot of them are from they're from like staff from the show. They're from like support figures, like people that like cameramen and storyboard writers and things like that. So that they gave them some nods.
Oh, is that what it is? You looked that up?
Yeah, they've been doing that
so
since like episode 1, I think. And so most of your end credit roles are people from the show itself. So
right. Next, then you've got Jimmy having a little meeting with everyone and Kat, which I love how well their dynamic works. They have great chemistry together, which I think worked, and worked in Marvel's favor for this episode. They have a little dossier board and they're like, here's a picture of Wanda. Here's a picture of Vision. And you can tell they're sitting there. Now they're watching the episode again and they're identifying. They've got a facial recognition software. They're identifying every cast member in that show. And here's what's really interesting to me too. So as they're doing this, Jimmy's writing on the board at this one point. It shows Darcy doing this. Jimmy's first question that he's wondering is why the hexagonal shape. Mm-hmm. And it tells how far the radius is too. It's a 5-mile radius. And if you look to the bottom left of that, it says behind this. So, I think you can figure out, it pretty much says who's behind this. And it says Krulls, which I'm guessing means Skrulls. Which makes me wonder if Secret Invasion is going to be a thing on Disney Plus or a movie, or gets us back to our cosmic phase.
Man,
which makes me wonder if the director's a Skrull.
That seems like it would have to be Phase 5. I mean, that Secret Invasion is its own huge thing. There's no way they could just put that out as a one-off for it. Well, I guess they could do a Disney Plus.
It's cosmic.
Yeah, it is cosmic, but man,
it's cosmic. And Secret Wars, we've already had a nod to Secret Wars.
Yeah, and we have Skrulls. We have.
Mm-hmm. They've already got the framework.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's, if you remember, Phase 1 through 3 was 10 years. They had 10 years to tell this story. So I don't know.
Yeah, I hope it's, because Secret Wars would be so fantastic if it's done right. If it's rushed into just one movie, or one season of a show, it won't give it credit. It won't have its due. It needs to be an episode or a several season series for it to really be good.
Right. No, I agree.
I'm not gonna lie. I've been sitting here still trying to scan this QR code.
So they're identifying all the players and they're putting their driver's licenses with them. They're telling who everyone is. It says, why sitcoms? Is Vision alive? Is one of the questions. They still don't know at this point. And they're identifying literally everyone in here, except there is 2 spots. There's 2 people missing from this dossier board. You guys know who they are?
Agnes and Dottie.
No, Agnes is up there.
Agnes is up there. Oh, okay. I thought you meant that they haven't identified.
Yeah, who they haven't identified. Agnes is up there. They haven't identified her, but she's on the board.
Okay, so you're talking about 2 people
that aren't up there.
That are not completely on the board. I'm almost at the board now. So,
I don't see the Doctor.
The Doctor's not in there. which means they don't know who he is, or they just haven't identified him, but they've identified everyone else in the town.
Mhm.
And Kyle mentioned the other one is Dottie.
Mm.
There's no Dottie and there's no doctor, which I've had my misgivings about Dottie from the get-go.
Oh yeah.
'Cause
So,
Strong, independent woman.
because she's a strong, independent woman, and we can't have that.
Makes sense.
And we just lost our 35% female viewership after this episode.
We love strong, independent woman.
We do.
We love them.
And then they're watching the TV. Darcy and Jimmy, they're watching the TV, and boom, there's Monica. And Monica just seems to be a player there. And this is where they start getting extremely skeptical of what's going on. So I thought this is a very why else I love this scene where they're interacting. This makes me hopeful that they might do a spin-off show with, like you were saying, like an X-Files show, except with Darcy in it too.
Ooh, Darcy and Woo.
Darcy and Woo, or
That would be
Lean Mulder.
Woosy.
Woosy.
And you
Woosy.
mentioned in that last scene, probably the saddest thing that I've seen in any Marvel movie, even more sad than when Peter Parker says, I don't want to go to
Right.
Tony Stark, is when she drops that whole cup of ramen. I mean,
That was terrible.
I like rep my sriracha and ramen, and that
It was sad.
She didn't get her coffee. She loses her ramen.
stop it.
She's just abused.
Minute to overcome that.
So they've got all this stuff set up on this truck outside, and because it goes to a conversation where it's like, do you think you can contact them? And she's like, I think we can, and they're sitting there they're on episode 2 when they're at the pool, and where she meets Geraldine for the first time, and the radio's there, and she's like, now go now. And then he says, what was it? Something like, Wanda, are you there? Wanda, if you remember in episode 2, that was the voice we heard in the radio. We know where it comes from now.
And I think he said something about, who is doing this to you?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so it again shows that they're on the outside, they're not sure, but we are getting more and more sure about who is actually doing this and why.
Right. And you can tell he's getting to her, and something's breaking in her.
Mhm.
Because this is the part where she's just looking at Dottie, and Dottie just has this weird look on her face, and Dottie shatters the glass in her hand, or Wanda does, and there's that blood. But there's a skip.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Dottie had this look of fear to this very Karen look to her. Why are you here? I'm calling the police, basically. And you don't see that blood. We know what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this was very important because it shows Wanda is completely manipulating the storyboard.
Yeah.
And
in there, that what was that? I think someone's editing this.
Yeah.
And so it's showing that we know from watching the first and second episode what happened real time, but what's being shown on this television show, I mean, she still has the power to edit. She has the power to do all of that. And it even goes through and shows a commercial that we hadn't seen yet, the first part of one. And it's, she has so much control and so much power over this whole situation that she can even edit. And I'm sure Kyle will attest to how much of a pain editing is and all of that.
It is a huge pain in the ass.
Able to control all of this and edit simultaneously and control it. I mean, it's showing that you're right, what you said a couple of weeks ago, that the Omega level mutant, the Omega level power that she has through this.
Well, and it's very one thing we forgot to mention at the beginning when Monica got expelled from the force field. I believe it was at the beginning, wasn't it? As she's laying there half unconscious, she said, "It's Wanda. It's all Wanda." I believe that was the words out of her mouth, wasn't it?
At the very end.
Oh, that was at the end.
Yeah, I think in the flashback at the beginning, it just showed her like waking up, or
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she has a revelation at the end of the episode.
Forget I said anything.
But stick around to hear us talk about it again.
Yeah. So yeah, then we saw the beginning of the other commercial, and it was the Tux commercial, wasn't it?
Have we seen one where he's in a tux?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
the
think we have.
it's the watch commercial.
Oh, was that the watch?
Okay. I couldn't remember if we'd seen that or not, but that does, yeah, make sense.
So, and then we see the guy crawling through the sewer again. All of a sudden, he crosses the barrier. As he crosses the barrier, his costume changes. His hazmat suit turns into the beekeeper. And his rope turned into, you remember what it turned into?
Jump rope.
A jump rope. And the jump rope was in color.
Mm-hmm.
He was black and white, but the jump rope was in color. And,
that was the
So, I
most
mean-
terrifying scene for me when I saw that turn into the jump rope, because I just terrible flashbacks to gym class. And those clackety damn jump ropes that would just cut your legs up because Fat Boy couldn't jump. That really instilled the fear back into me, much like the ramen scene for Justin. I think this was my ramen scene.
Those jump ropes had the plastic that like met
clack, 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 clack.
in your like leg hair or skin and just pinch it. Oh, those are the worst.
You guys had leg hair?
I was gonna say,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we did. Yeah.
I still don't have any leg hair.
Yours will come in at one point.
My mom's picking me up later. Beekeeper crawls out of the sewer and he's in full color. That's what was freaky. But then
Mhm.
as it pans into him, as he turns, he goes full black and white, and then there's Wanda and Vision staring at him. To me,
Yeah.
this scene was absolutely terrifying. We knew what was going to happen, but it's like, all right, we know what Wanda's doing to people who she doesn't like right now. So we don't know what happens to this guy.
It gets
His name
edited.
Franklin, Agent
It's edited.
Franklin.
Oh, was that
Yeah.
who it was?
Yeah, which was a very throwaway name when I heard that. I was like, that guy's not going to make it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think that was a throwaway name.
You don't think?
Franklin was also the name of Franklin Richards, Reed and Sue's kid from the Fantastic Four, who is the most powerful mutant in existence.
Oh,
I might be reaching on this, but I don't think that was a throwaway name.
I think reading too much into it
I might be,
because we
but
don't have the existence of a Fantastic Four yet, let alone the child of two people in the Fantastic Four. So,
if you remember the comics, Franklin was a time traveler too.
true.
yeah, but Franklin would have been the agent's last name. They wouldn't be like, be careful, Agent Steve. Like,
They might have Agent Steve.
So kind of calling shenanigans.
So
I call it
yeah,
shenanigans.
I might be reaching, but there could be some validity.
Hmm.
We will see by episode 8 or further down into phase 4.
For 5.
We might have to
Or
wait.
6.
We might have to wait a couple years before I see if I have any validity to that argument.
7
I'm
years
probably
down the
still
road,
way out of my
Franklin
ass.
shows up in a bee suit with all kinds of superpowers, and Chris is like, I told you it was Franklin the
It's-
whole time.
It was me.
If only we were recording our conversation so we could go back and know.
Oh god,
And
something
so-
happened with the I don't know. I think I lost everything.
Bastard. So, but then they start getting into the scene where Wanda starts getting pissed at Geraldine after the childbirth, and then all of a sudden, boop. We don't know what happened, and Jimmy and Darcy are just as confused as we are to what happened. And the part that really stuck with me the most is the look again on Wanda's face on the still, but then she starts moving forward. But if you look, the whole scene is in like a TV. And here's where it gets real interesting. My wife actually pointed this out to me. The format of the screen changes as it pans in. It goes from 4:3 to like 16:9. It goes to widescreen format. You see it slowly panning out to a more modern, and then it clears up.
Before we jump into that, Bo, because that's a big thing. I want to go back to the childbirth really quick.
Yeah.
Because something, and like I had to go back and rewatch this scene like 3 or 4 times because it seemed off. So as Darcy and we were watching, which this is like some great conversation between those two with the potato chip, and she's like, do you want one or do you want some? And he's like, I always thought about having kids. Like that little conversation between those two was great. And so they show the childbirth scene, and it's like almost instantly after that Darcy comments twins. And it wasn't like there was a jump in time, like they left, they cut out the time when they were watching the whole exchange where, because Vision comes back in, sees the first baby, and then he's like surprised because, oh, there's another baby coming out. Like it seemed like it was like baby, like instant in their eyes. Like they didn't even see either Vision come back in. Like there was some more stuff that was edited out at that point that they didn't see the entire thing play out with the doctor coming back in, with Vision holding who was first, Tommy, and then Billy comes out after.
That sounds right.
It was really a tight time frame right there. So I think there was something else that she edited out right then, or it could have been they were just trimming it down for time. But really quick.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? But here's what I loved about this part too is she said, Geraldine, I think it's time for you to go. And all of a sudden she powers up those hands. And she's kind of like, it's like a cat playing with a mouse at this point to me. She's just kind of doing this, like moving her hands around, powered up. And Geraldine, and it's the scene we see, Wanda, it's me, Geraldine, what are you doing? And then what was significant to me about this scene was when she hit her with those hex powers. You just think, boom, she just got transported out of there. No, she's like, bitch, get out. And she got demolished through the house, the fence, through the neighbor's house. Like, I mean, she was hurt. And she had this look on her face the whole ride. And then that's when she got kicked out. So to me, it's not like, with the way Wanda is doing this, she could have just expelled her outside the force field and just said, you're gone, right? But to me, why this was significant was Wanda said, you are interrupting my reality. I'm going to hurt you.
It was very brutal.
It was extremely brutal. And then the look on Wanda's face when she had realized what happened, what she'd done.
It was like she was out. It was like she didn't know what she did until she did it.
Like her mind snapping.
Yeah. That she was completely out of it during that whole transition. She launched her out. If you realize what happened, that she lost control and that she has to fix it now. And that she has to get, as she says later, everything's under control. Has to have it all back under control. So she wraps it back in together. But yeah, just the look on Wanda's face after that was something else.
Well, and then then it goes back to Wanda going to the babies. Then we see Vision walk in, which is the end of episode 3, what we saw.
But different.
Editing.
As soon as he walks in too, before the actual reveal, he's blurry, he's out of focus, but yeah, we'll get to, when she actually sees Vision, that was freaky, to say the least.
So because then we go back out to Monica.
Oh yeah, I got ahead of myself.
Yeah, no, because we're almost there. Because what's important about this is Monica being outside. Now we're back, and then you're right, Justin. This is the part where she goes, "Wanda, it's all Wanda," and then she turns back to. We pan back inside to Wanda, and Vision's still blurry. What Kyle was saying. You guys are going to go back and rewatch this. I know you are. Those of you who are listening. She turns around. And Vision's dead. Not dead, but it's the way Vision looked. It's the white Vision from the comics to me, basically, that's damaged. It's the Vision that Thanos pulled the Mind Stone out of. So if you remember when he went gray and white and his eyes went clear and he fell with that big rip in his forehead, like a rot, like Walking Dead. That's what that reminded me of. And Vision's basically like, what is it? Which I thought was just completely interesting. I thought the way they did the makeup was amazing too. And Wanda's like, she looks down, she looks at him again, then he's normal. Which to me, I looked at my wife at that point and I go, okay, so she didn't recreate Vision. She did not recreate him. She did not recreate the Mind Stone. This part's just part of her magic. She got his body from somewhere. She's reanimating his corpse with Vision's personality. Like she's either trapped his soul inside of there, or it's just what she, he's a puppet.
So
could
could this be setting up, because we just finished 70s, so we got 80s and 90s coming up. Like, are we looking at
80s
a full
should be next,
full like Weekend at Bernie's thing coming along? Or
say hi, Vision.
God, I hope so. I hope that was so much of my being right now.
Weekend at Maximoff's.
So the way I saw it wasn't necessarily that she had taken his body and done this. A lot of this is her own creation, and so she sees and wants Vision to be alive. She wants Vision to be, Vision and change back and forth and have the powers and all of that. And it was the reminder of her brother dying from Ultron, and having to expel somebody that's not in this reality, if you will, that she's creating, that she looks back at Vision and remembers, oh yeah, you're dead. Wait a minute. And then that's whenever she changes him back to normal. And so the way I took it was he's still made up, because Darcy even said earlier he's dead and confirms he's dead. And it's not necessarily the recreation of or reanimation of his body, but more of this is Wanda remembering, oh yeah, he's dead. And it's just that constant reminder back to what Monica was saying, or Geraldine was saying, of, why are you in my home? How do you know who Ultron is? And it's this break in reality. She turns around and she remembers, oh yeah, Vision's dead. And then she changes him back. So that's how I took that there too.
Vision has some moments of clarity though. He has leading up to this point where where the Vision character is questioning what's going on. Like, we can go somewhere else. We can, because he says that to her after the zombie Vision becomes back to regular Vision. God, I hope zombie Vision's a thing. But anyway, so like he has these moments of clarity, and so that's where I'm caught between like what Chris is saying and what you're saying, Justin. Is like, okay, well, is this actually some form of Vision that has some something still there where he's trying to figure out what's going on, where he's trying to break out? Or is it is it Wanda having her breaks in reality or her breaks in her reality that she's created, and it's coming through as she's projecting it through Vision, talking to her like this is her conscience, or this is her trying to tie back to the actual real world, her trying to tell herself to break out of this there can be something else, and she's just having this internal struggle back and forth, and it's playing out through Vision.
And I'm torn between this because I still think that they're gearing up with this episode. I think they're gearing up for House of M. I'm still holding to this. They're gearing up for House of M, where Wanda breaks reality.
Right.
And that's how I think they're going to introduce mutants into this. You know, they're both holding babies at the end of this episode, and then he puts his arm, you know, kind of around her on the couch, and you know, hits the television button. You know, it ends like they always do. They're on the couch watching TV. But then it pans out, and it's like the police stand by. And here's what I found was interesting. So it's showing the pixelated stuff, you know, like all the LEDs. You see like Wanda's face, and then you start seeing some more pictures. There's Wanda again and Vision just smiling at each other, but then all of a sudden it pans out into dead Vision's face. Now, if you go back and look, this isn't a new ending. This is the same ending they've been using in 1, 2, and 3. It's just screened out more. We're starting to see more of the big picture now. So it's because all the colorations are right. So we're just seeing more and more as the weeks go by. So I'm thinking, you know, by the time we hit 8, we're going to get the full picture. And I don't know what this means. I think we're headed towards House of M.
So what do you think Geraldine meant whenever she said it's all Wanda? Because
she's the big bad.
It of course, you know, the first surface level is it's all Wanda. And but the people already know that. You know, the sword people. But what do you think that it is? Do you think that she knew where she was and what? Well, I guess she does, because she brings up Ultron.
So when they're in there, we know she's brainwashing them to be these characters, except when she has a break in her concentration. Right. So I think this just confirmed for Sword that it's Wanda. I think for me, this cemented that Wanda is the big bad. She's the one who's going to break reality. And I think when she's going to break reality, this is going to lead straight into, I think we're going to have multiple things that it's leading into. I think Monica and Sword is going to lead into Captain Marvel too. I think Wanda, it's already been confirmed, Wanda's in Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness. I think Wanda's going to fracture the multiverse, start the whole multiverse, which technically it started with Into the Spider-Verse.
Well, didn't it start with Doctor Strange?
Was there an alternate reality?
Because they I think they discussed it in Doctor Strange, if I remember right. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that one to double check.
Yeah.
But it definitely was Into the Spider-Verse. We know that. We know that the next Spider-Man animated movie is a Spider-Verse movie. So I think cosmic and multiverse is going to be huge in Phase 4.
When there's talking about the third Spider-Man movie live action is going to have Andrew Garfield, is going to have Tobey Maguire, and Gwen Stacy. What's her face?
Emma Stone is Gwen Stacy. Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane.
So it's that totally
Mary Jane Watson.
The idea that they're going to do the multiverse because they're bringing back several of the Spider-Mans that we know.
All the Spider-Mans.
All the Spider-Mans.
I just all the Spider-Mans.
Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3 that dances.
Yes.
That's what I hope.
That's a, oh, please don't bring back Sandman.
But that's my. They actually are bringing back Sandman. They're bringing.
I know Electro.
But yeah, they said that Sandman was going to be in it too.
I am iffy on Electro. I am way iffy on that.
They can do the Sinister Six because that means that they'll have all of the new villains from the new Spider-Mans.
Doc Ock, Mysterio,
Um,
Vulture, Rhino,
you've got Scorpion
Sandman.
in jail at the end of Homecoming.
Was that Scorpion? That was Scorpion, wasn't it?
It was in the end credit scenes, or is at the very, very end? Is it one of the two? So that pretty much completes the Sinister Six. So there's a good chance that that's what they're leading to as well.
Yeah, it's.
Is there a way they can bring back Green Goblin? Because I would love to have Willem Dafoe just back.
Actually,
in all this mess again.
so there's rumor for the Spider-Man movie that it's that Green Goblin,
Mhm.
Harry, the guy who I forget who that is.
The dad or the son?
The son.
Shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Kirkland, Leonardo DiCaprio. What's his name?
Mother.
We're gonna IMDb it real quick.
Yeah.
I think that was amazing, wasn't it?
Please.
Yeah, that was
Harry
amazing.
Osborn.
Yep.
What? It was just regular Spider-Man.
Oh, they also had the Lizard too. I forgot about Lizard.
That was the first Amazing.
Yeah. Harry was
James Franco.
Franco, there you go.
Oh, you're talking the first Franco or the first one?
Yeah.
Which Franco? Yeah.
The first Franco.
Amazing. It was
Spectacular?
Cade.
No, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. He was in Valerian.
Oh, that was him, wasn't it?
Crap,
Dane DeHaan.
There you go, Dane. I was thinking Cade. Dane, yeah.
It's Kirkland Leonardo.
Okay, Dane DeHaan. You got it.
He was in Valerian. I forgot about that. So I don't know. That's our predictions on how we think, episode 4 and where we think they're going to go, because I think this episode threw me for a damn loop.
So
I was not expecting any of this. So what are we sitting at time-wise, Kyle?
A lot. Let's see. We're roughly an hour 45 into our nerd quickie.
yeah, these are gonna have to be nerd longies.
We've
Which that still fits into the name. A
There you go.
nerd key? No, it doesn't.
Nerkie. You know what? They're still Nerkies because they're different from the full episodes.
Yeah.
In that we don't do the nerd drum.
Yeah.
And no commercials.
I mean, we can always go back and retcon it later. So
Yeah, we are gonna retcon it. But damn it, it's I don't know, it's fun to do these. We've got to pick our next one. So I'm hoping that the next Marvel series will be it after this so we can Nerkie it.
Yeah.
If not, we're gonna have to pick something.
we'll get something out
Do you guys have any other predictions for episode 5?
there.
Because I can tell you, I sure as hell don't
I
at this point.
Will be blown. That's the only
Yeah.
prediction I'm gonna make.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's going to be 80s style, and I think it's going to be Full House style. That's my prediction.
I know from the trailer there's one of the decades where Agnes is, full on witch outfit. And I'm thinking that's got to be either 80s or 90s. Because it's very kind of old school witch Halloween costume looking. So I'm hoping it's the next one. And
Well,
I
what
kind
if-
of hope they make a little transition from sitcoms to maybe more movies, and they can maybe do some like Halloween stuff, like the movie Halloween, not the holiday.
Okay.
And because it's more sinister now. There's more heaviness to the episodes after we've seen,
God,
Zombie
is it
Vision,
sinister.
that makes
and
sense.
which I will refer to him as that from now on. Zombie Vision. I'm Team Zombie Vision. And so I hope we get some of that. But we also saw, Agnes in leg warmers on a countertop, and so
Which is
maybe
very
those
80s.
very 80s. So maybe they'll stick to the sitcom thing. But I was kind of hoping maybe throw a little little horror movie stuff in there from those times.
So, Justin, you got any predictions?
I do not.
All right. Thanks for that one.
Enjoying it as it goes on, and I'm hoping that it does something 80s, something classic like Knight Rider would be wonderful. But yeah, it's probably going to stick with like a Who's the Boss, or Alf would be kind of fun too if they had Vision as like the Alf, or maybe the kids. I don't know.
Well, how are they gonna? Alf ate cats. Who's gonna eat the cats?
I haven't seen one cat yet. Maybe there's already an Alf. Alf would be
Vision ate him.
Maybe
freaking amazing.
The Witch. That's when
Zombie Vision ate him.
There you go.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that, because in the comics, Agnes always had her cat, which makes me wonder why we haven't seen a cat yet. That cat was her familiar.
Either that, or it's Ralph is her cat, because we haven't seen Ralph, and she keeps referencing him over and over and over again. So maybe Ralph is her familiar.
Did we ever bring up the fact, and this, I didn't catch this, I just found it, digging through the internets, that when she brought up her and Ralph's wedding anniversary, did we ever talk about that? That
I think we briefly did, but we could never figure out anything about it.
okay, so the I think, and this is coming from the vast wisdom of the internet, that the date that she gave for their anniversary, which was like June 3rd or July 3rd, I think it was June 3rd, coincides with the Salem witch trials, which was cool.
Oh yeah. So we did talk about that.
Did talk about that? Okay.
You mentioning that. I remember you mentioning that. I think we did. I can't remember if we talked about it on the show or if it was just you and I.
I don't know.
If not, it's retconned.
I'm good for one episode out, so I might bring it up again next one. Be ready.
Yeah, might as well. So, well, with that, we're going to leave you all with that. Join us next week for episode 5. We're actually going to try and get it out a little earlier. We'll be able to record a little bit earlier. Some people apparently have testicles and are going to watch the Super Bowl.
Go
or have antennas that can pick it up. That's cool.
Or pick it up. Are they? I thought they weren't the Chiefs anymore.
Go Kansas City.
Man, way to bring down our show with racism, Justin.
They're still the Chiefs. They haven't changed it. It's the Washington football team that changed their name.
Oh,
yeah.
We need to do
being racist.
Episode on fantasy football because fantasy nerds, things like that, and I'll lead it. So,
okay, I choose Demi Moore and Summer Glau.
All right,
that's your fantasy football team.
Be close.
Oh, fantasy, right? That's with the football. Isn't that the one where you can double dribble and get the slap shots?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you dunk all the field goals.
I know my sports. So with that, catch us next week. We're going to talk about episode 5 and see if any of our predictions have been right so far.
I think all of them will be. Even the ones that contradict each other.
No,
especially the ones that contradict each other.
I played it safe. I have no predictions, so I know I'm going to be right.
Right. And we'd like to thank Justin for being a blank slate, because we can easily write on him.
Mentally, definitely that's true.
That's true too. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks again for listening in. I'm Chris.
I'm Kyle.
And you all have a good night.
Have a great evening.
Nerd Corker, rise up. It could get elevated.